Hello all, welcome to part 26 of the Wireless LAN Security Mega Primer. In this video, we will look at cracking WPA WPA2 PSK with just the client. So how would this work? Well, if you remember, the Cafe Latte and the Hirte attack were successful in getting the web key from an isolated client by stimulating it to generate more and more web encrypted packets. Now, unfortunately, in the case of WPA WPA2 PSK, there is no foolproof way to crack the key. The only way you could do it once again is if the passphrase is poorly chosen. Now, even with that in place, how do we go about it? Because the the authorized access point is not here. We only have the client. So in the previous video, we saw how simple it is to actually create WPA WPA2 honeypots using Airbase NG. Now in this video, we'll take that one step forward and understand how to crack WPA WPA2 PSK with just a client. So if you remember this familiar diagram, in this case I've just replaced the access point with the hacker. Now he does not have the pre-shared key. So what he does is, after the probe request response and the authentication and association phase, which of course he can fake on behalf of the authorized access point, he sends message 1 with the authenticator nonce, which is anyway just a random number which even the hacker can generate. The client, which has the correct pre-shared key derived from the passphrase, generates the S nonce and sends it in message 2 along with the MIC. So now the hacker does not have the passphrase, but he has the A nonce, S nonce, AP MAC as well as client MAC address. Now if you remember the WPA WPA2 passphrase cracking, all we have to do now is a WPA2 based dictionary attack. So this is what we'll do now. Let's go back to our setup. Now I'll start AeroDump NG on channel 1, just quickly monitor what is happening. And I start my client as well. And if you notice, the client is probing for an access point called Wireless Lab. This is the SSID. So what we will do, like in the previous video, is quickly set up 4 access points because we don't know the client's security configuration. One which is an open access point, which is the first one, all having the name Wireless Lab. Second, which is the web encrypted access point. Third one would be WPA PSK, and the fourth one would be WPA2 PSK. Let's switch off the client for a second while we are creating it. Not required, but would be helpful. Now what we will do is, let's go ahead and start this up and store it in some file. Now let's switch on the client while we have all of these 4 access points and see what happens. Client has found Wireless Lab, right? And it says it was able to connect to Wireless Lab. And if you notice, we were able to find the WPA handshake, DDDD, which kind of confirms our suspicion that client is actually using a WPA2 CCMP based profile. So let's close all of this. And now what we'll do is, we'll try and crack this WPA handshake packet. So for that, we are going to use aircrack ng, and I'm going to use some dictionary which will be borrowed from here, which would be -w pentest. I don't remember the path, but passwords and word lists, right? And we could give it the BT4 password list. Along with that, I could actually give it the demo WPA client.cap file. We will choose number 3 and the cracking has begun. And if a weak passphrase was chosen, then we would be able to crack the WPA2 PSK passphrase. Right, so let's give it a moment. And awesome, it was a pretty weak passphrase, and this is what it was. So let's come back to our video. So I guess what I really wanted to prove is if it's open, nothing bothers us. If it is web, well, Cafe Latte and Hirte is your friend. If it is WPA, WPA2, PSK, you may be able to crack the key if a weak passphrase had been chosen for that network. I guess that's all for this video. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Please leave your comments behind and definitely try this attack at home.